Have you ever dealt with a narcissist? That's what this video is about today. Let's get right into it. Alright, so many of you have heard of the term narcissist. Definition of a narcissist is a personality style that's characterized by an excessive focus on oneself, one's own needs, and often of the expense of others. People with narcissistic personality, NPD, may exhibit the following. We're going to go through some of the characteristics so you know. It's like a grandiose sense of self-importance. Everything revolves around them. Like they feel like the sun rises and sets on them. Like it's all about them. They have a need for excessive admiration. They believe that they are unique and deserving special treatment. So wherever they go, they want an applause. They want people to praise them or whatever. They have a lack of empathy towards other people. They exploit others without guilt or shame. Arrogant or haughty behaviors or attitudes. They are living in a fantasy world that supports their delusions, and being easily upset by the slightest criticism. Also, I want to add to this is that they never take accountability for anything. Do you know anybody that has these traits, these characteristics? Do you have them? Well, if it is you that has them, you're probably not going to own up to it because that's usually what happens with a narcissist. So this is the world's definition of a narcissist. And I want to tell you something. Narcissists were definitely in the Bible. Can we take a look at Jezebel? You read the story. If you haven't read the story of Jezebel, you should read the story of Jezebel. It is very important to know who that woman was. Well, first things first, she was an evil witch. She married Ahab, which was her husband, but Jezebel ruled Ahab. Like she was very controlling and vindictive. Very immoral. She also worshipped a lot of idols. She caused Israel to worship idols and bow down to idols. Also, she's big into sexual immorality. So a person that is a narcissist, they tend to have a Jezebel spirit, as well as Leviathan as well. So all those characteristics that I read to you, it does have a spiritual backing, because remember, I read to you that somebody, it's all about self. How is that not pride? Leviathan is the king of pride, right? It's all about them, nobody else. They lack empathy because they only care about them. So with that being said, that's where that pride comes in. And then you have, they are master manipulators. They like to control everything. How is that not like Jezebel, right? So I wanted to talk about this because I know the world has their definition, but I wanted to just share my testimony and story on how I dealt with narcissists in my life and how God has helped me heal from relationships with other people that were narcissists, and how to break free from it. First things first, I want to say this. The world tends to say like narcissists will never change, they will always be the same, which is word cursing. There is a possibility for a narcissist to get saved and change, because anything is possible with God, right? So yes, there are people that can be delivered from these demons, and they turn to Christ and they change their life and no longer be narcissists. I will say that everybody has narcissistic tendencies because we are sinners. So that's a narcissistic tendency. We're thinking about ourselves when we sin. But then you have a narcissist who's like, they're wicked people. Very wicked people, self-centered, and they don't care if they're damaging other people. They want what they want, and they'll do anything to take it. And that's where it becomes an issue. In Proverbs 21:4, it says, haughty eyes, a proud heart, and evil actions are a sin. With that being said, is like, for my testimony, I dealt with a few narcissists, but I want to talk about one in particular, which is my ex-fiance. Very, very, very controlling, manipulative individual. And I would say throughout our whole relationship, I just felt like I had no say in anything. It was all about what he wanted. Now, of course, in the beginning, when I first met him, I was a broken person. I was not saved, so don't come at me in the comments. I wasn't even saved yet when I met him. And the reason why I met him is because I wanted a boyfriend. It sounds silly, but I wanted a boyfriend. I wanted somebody to love me because I had daddy issues. So, when you pray, God can answer your prayers, and the devil can definitely answer you too. Especially if it's not in God's will, the devil will definitely come and answer your prayers. And the devil came through with one of his folks. So anyway, I was at a time in my life where I was looking for love, had identity issues, and this person popped up. Now, he seemed to be super charming and loving in the beginning, right? If any of you had an experience with a narcissist in your life, they love to love bomb you. That's the term that it's called, love bombing, where they like to shower you with gifts or love. They want to spend a lot of time with you. It seems like you match so much with them because all of a sudden they're interested in everything that you're interested in, right? Which really, they tend to mirror you, because what a narcissist likes to do is they like to seek out what's your weak points, and they will mirror you and say, yeah, I'm interested in that too. We should do this. Or whenever you bring up something, yeah, me too, type of thing. And they're very fake and phony. It's not to say that you can't have certain things in common with them, but they tend to mirror you a lot. So whatever you like, they like too. And really, they don't like it, but they're just trying to get you sucked in to trust them so that they could start flipping out. So it was a lot of love bombing in the beginning of the relationship, and that I had trust. I had trust in him, and I confided in him about personal things and that matter. So it wasn't until we ended up moving in together, again, wasn't saved. We were in fornication 100%. And that's another thing too with narcissists. Remember, it's a Jezebel spirit. So what does Jezebel like? Sexual immorality, right? So when you're fornicating with a narcissist, that's another way for them to control you because of the soul tie that you're creating. So anyway, with that being said, once you start having sex with a person, you're demon swapping. I don't care if you believe that or not. It's true. This is why God says, like, listen, you wait till marriage, because otherwise it's sexual immorality. If you're not waiting until marriage to become one with a person, a God-ordained person, you will be swapping demons with people. I'm just making that very clear. I have a video on breaking free from sexual immorality as well. Check that out. But so yeah, we were fornicating. So with sex, you become one with the person and you start having all of these issues now, because you are essentially, coming into agreement with their demons. All right. So with that being said, we end up moving in together, and that's when the true colors really started to come out, that he was crazy. And I don't want to say that, curse him and say he's crazy, but the demons inside of him make him crazy. Because we don't fight against flesh and blood. So, anyway, I started to see his true colors. He was mean, super controlling. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. We're living together. I end up getting pregnant. And when I got pregnant, things got worse. At first, like he said to me he wanted to have a baby, and that's another thing too. That's a good way for a narcissist to trap you, is with a child, because then they can further control you. So again, this is going to be my personal testimony from my perspective as a female. A male's perspective may be a little bit different, but either way, this should bless you. So anyway, we got pregnant. And, at first he made it seem like he wanted a child. He wanted to be with me. We're planning a wedding, all this stuff. We did things backwards. You should get married first before kids. I get it. I was living in sin at the time. So, like a few months down the road, he started to become really evil. Like, I was sick a lot and he didn't care. He wanted his meals cooked and things cleaned. He would come home and just be super chaotic and start stuff with me. Mind you, I'm carrying a child. I'm stressed out anyway. My body's naturally stressed out because it's the first time I'm going through this. And so anyway, he was very abusive with his words and things like that. Later turned into physical abuse, but that's not going to get into details with that. But I realized that, wow, I'm kind of trapped because who is this person? It's kind of like they flip a switch and he became his true self. And a lot of people wear a mask, right? And they hide who they really are naturally. And so I didn't know that he was this person pretending until, I'm trapped with a child. And so anyway, he starts being mean, rude, and all that stuff. And I quickly realized, like, this is not the same person that I thought loved me. And again, I didn't know what love was because I didn't come from a loving home. And also, I didn't know Christ at this time. So, I ended up, having my child and all that. The whole time he was cheating on me, whole relationship, just straight cheating. And I didn't find out until after. And then I go through his phone. There's so many women, it's crazy. I just like, wait, what? Why is there so many women in here? Like, he had other girlfriends. It was a mess. And that's another thing too with a narcissist. They cheat, they lie all the time because they have to keep this image like they're one person, but really they're the total opposite. So they'll try to make it seem like they are a person with money. They have all these things in life. They're successful, but really they're just a bum. And that's what was being portrayed to the other women. Like, oh, I got money from my job, cashing a check and flaunting it on social media, like stupid stuff like that. And really, you got kids out here that you're not even taking care of. Like, that's just crazy to me. He has other kids now too. But nevertheless, so after that, we're going to fast forward a little bit after breaking up because I immediately started getting counseling. I had postpartum depression as well, and I worked with a lot of postpartum women. I'm a nutritionist and work with postpartum women, infants, children. So I had this background already. So I knew about women having postpartum depression. I knew the signs, so I just got a therapist. And let me tell you, my therapist was like, you need to run, girl. And I couldn't really understand why she was saying run. I didn't know what a narcissist was, and she didn't explain it in the session either, but there was one therapy session he came to and he was not allowed to come back. So it was that bad. And it wasn't until like a while later when I saw a video on YouTube about a narcissist, and I'm like going through the checklist and everything I read in the beginning, he had those issues. Like, that was definitely this person. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. What do I do? Because now at this point we're separated, and I have my daughter, and then he starts bringing me to court and stuff because I don't want to be with him anymore. Just complete manipulation and control. So we're going back and forth to court. He's trying to get custody. Is not happening because, again, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have his own place to live, no money, nothing to take care of children. So there's that. But I noticed in the midst of this, like, when my daughter was around 2 years old, that's when I started turning to Christ. And I ended up getting saved in this mess. And the beautiful part was that I was very angry with him, of course, of everything that he did. But the Lord, like, pulled me aside one time in a secret place and was like, how are you going to be mad at him when you're a sinner too? And it made me realize something, that not saying that I've done the same things, but I was still a sinner and still needed a savior, just like he does. So my point to talking about my testimony and making this video is that you need to pray. Pray for the person that is acting up and that the narcissist in your life. Pray for them. The more you pray for them, the more you can forgive. Because at the end of the day, if you hold on to anger and bitterness towards these people, it's not going to stop. Like, their demons are still going to keep attacking you because you have doors open. When you start to forgive by praying for them and interceding for them, especially for their salvation, you should not really be praying to get back with them. Really, what you should be praying for is your walk with Christ, your healing from that messy situation, and also for their salvation. In the beginning, I was thinking, let me pray that we get back together and blah, blah, blah. And then the Lord showed me that's not who I had for you. You did that on your own. I didn't say get with that person. But nevertheless, God could take a bad situation and turn it around and make it a good situation. So I started to pray for him every day. And it got to the point where I was not mad anymore. So this took a while, of course. Because forgiveness is not a one-time thing. It could take a while to forgive somebody, because each day something may come up where you need to forgive. This walk is a daily walk. So every day you have to make a decision to follow Christ, make a decision to forgive, make a decision not to lash out on people. This is an everyday thing. It's not like, I accept Christ and walk is bliss, because it's not. There's things that you still need to work on. So I noticed that the more and more I prayed for him, the more and more I interceded for him, the more I had more compassion for him and not anger. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, you do need to make sure that you're staying in prayer. With anybody, you stay in prayer, but especially with them, because you get attacked so much. And they want to control you so much that you have to pray against that. You have to pray against that witchcraft. And yes, I say witchcraft because manipulation is witchcraft. And whenever you're trying to get somebody to do something you want them to do, and it's not through prayer, or it's not in God's will, I should say, it's witchcraft. So, for example, if you're praying that you can control somebody and control a situation, that's witchcraft. Versus me praying that somebody gets saved and they become a better father, they start walking in God's will. That is something that God can respond to and bless. But if you are trying to go outside of God and do your own thing and manipulate something, that's witchcraft. That's literally all what witchcraft is working outside of the kingdom of God. So anyway, that's what you have to do. Continue to pray for them. Read scriptures, combating them. One tactic that a narcissist likes to use is fear. That's how they manipulate you. They have fear. So my ex would always threaten me, like any type of threats. Like, if you get with somebody else, I'll kill you both. Or if you don't let me see our child, I'm bringing you to court. Stuff like that. And fear used to really get me like this, because I mentioned in another video spirit of fear was already in my bloodline. So that demon was already feeding off that. But also too, like I said, Jezebel likes to put fear in people. If you think of when Jezebel threatened Elijah and said, by this time today, you're gonna be dead, and all your and all God's prophets and this and that, whatever how she put it. Elijah ran. He ran, hid in the cave. Stop hiding in that cave and combat that with scripture. Don't let that spirit of fear come in. Because when you do that, you're now opening the door to the enemy. And that's what I did. I used to let him instill fear in me and get scared every time he came around, or when I had to have an encounters with him or had to go to court. And that left that door open for him to continue to manipulate me. But when you realize what's happening, when you take a look at what is going on in your situation, start noticing the patterns and characteristics. These are demons operating in people. This is not the person, because we fight against flesh and blood. So you have to realize, okay, he's using fear, he's using manipulation, he's trying to control. That's Jezebel. Pray against that. Read scriptures against that. Ask for God's protection over your mind, because that fear can grip you and take over your mind and become tormenting. But if you're praying against that, you're speaking life into the situation, you're praying for the other person, then, it can't affect you as bad. And I'm not gonna lie to you, dealing with somebody like that, it is annoying, because they don't think like the average person. It's hard to explain. It's different, okay? It's a different can of worms. You are literally dealing with a bunch of demons. You literally. And they can change. One day they're hot, next day they're cold. They try to be nice, super nice, and the next thing they're mean again and cussing you out. It's a whole ordeal. I don't want to go into super long details, but I just wanted to come and address that and share my testimony and how I overcame that. And honestly, it was really prayer. It was fasting, unforgiveness, and letting God work in me. And one thing I learned through that process is that the more you become Christ-like, the more you can handle situations like that. Even in Mark 8:34 says, if any of you want to be a follower of Christ, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me, right? So if you want to follow Christ, you have to give up the old way of how you were handling the situations. The old you would have probably fed into their nonsense. The old you would have probably let fear grip you and overtake you and give them what they wanted. But no, instead, we have to be Christ-like. Think what would Christ do in this situation? Would Christ go and cuss them out? And you're feeding into what they want, because they like when you get upset and mad, because these people, they don't have peace in their life. They're constantly tormented by demons. Narcissists are constantly tormented. They hear voices. They're off. So when you're feeding into their demons, it's honestly making the devil happy, because the devil's using these people. It may seem like them because they're doing it, but it's the demons inside of them. So if you become more Christ-like and you're in the secret place more and you're praying, you're in your word, you can really combat that. And they will end up leaving you be. Because demons, they only have access to and what you give them. Whatever access you give them, that's the access that they have. So if you're not feeding into that nonsense, and you could be cordial with them, especially if you're co-parenting. I'll make another video on that, because I know this might be a lot of your issues that you may have. You may be co-parenting with the narcissist, so I can make another video on that. But I wanted to bring light that these people do exist, and you need to trust in the Lord through this process. It's a long process a lot of times, because you have to get healing from that trauma, and a lot of times that healing takes a bit of time to work through. And then now you have to learn how to deal with that person, because they're not going to change overnight. Could they? Anything's possible with God. But from my experience with dealing with narcissists, because this is not the only one, it does take a lot of prayer. So I hope that this helps you. I will do a part 2 of this video, because I know a lot of people are going through this, dealing with somebody that's very difficult. But anything is possible with God. You really can combat this with Christ if you keep Christ first. But of course, let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments, or if you have anything to say, of course, write it in the comments. I am wearing new merch. It's called Fit for Christ. This is my clothing brand. I don't know if you know this, but I am a personal trainer and nutritionist. I think I mentioned this before. So I do have other pages and stuff that you can follow. I'll put the links down below of where you can get this merch, and have some cool Jesus shirts and things like that. But until next time, God bless.